Hello,
Hi,
Henry. How are you?
how's it
Good to be
going?
connected.
How are
Well,
you doing?
great. I'm glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You're like my first real podcast. I'm coming out of like hibernation, stopped doing everything at the end of October and went in my little space to realign and just get a lot of clarity. And this next week is sort of like I had a sort of a was my birthday slash announcement party last Saturday of all this stuff. And then you're my first thing jumping in.
Welcome to the Danette May Show, where you'll receive profound breakthroughs, courage to break old patterns, and live into your soul's purpose. Each week, I will bring you epic guests and live coaching to remind you of your power. You have the ability to achieve extraordinary things, and the time to start is now.
So thanks for having me.
We must be aligned because whenever I'm going to drop in with somebody that I don't know, so everyone, this is Henry, and I do not know him personally, but I always try to drop in with your spirit, with
Uh,
anyone's spirit right before,
awesome.
because I really want spirit to guide this. I
Uh,
want this conversation to be as if you and I said, we're meant to meet. Let's sit
yeah,
down with a coffee, a cacao, a tea, and figure out why and let
love
everyone
that.
join the conversation.
Yeah.
But what I heard Spirit say was that you, because you work with behavioral people, you're a behavioral expert, that you actually were coming out of a cocoon and you have new insight to
Mm-hmm.
ask you what those new insights are,
Amazing.
because this is probably the new year. March, it was my new year. And now we're out. I feel like we're coming out of this birthing canal.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, you've been in a long birthing canal, you've
Yeah.
been in a long cocoon. What is fresh for you right now? What are you feeling right now?
That's funny. Birthing canal. I was born 3 months early. So it's ironic. It was like the same amount of times I was in my mother's womb that is me taking this time away, which is crazy.
Oh,
Man,
that's an interesting thought.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's super fascinating. Yeah, thanks for having me. Wow, it's funny. Before I came on, I like just checked in and I was like, okay, because the goal is to be integrated what you're doing and not just have it be a thought, but actually have it be part of who I am and what I'm doing, be super congruent. I've been studying human behavior for 28 years and just obsessively because I love this stuff. I need it. I always want to expand growth and it's such a freedom and inner freedom is such a big value for me. And I love these moments where you go in and you're like, there's a new level of something coming forward. And it's interesting because I'll give you a quick little background. I went to Hawaii in November. So my month of November was like my season of no. I was like, I'm saying no. You might freak out right now. If anyone's watching this video, I have this many unread text messages right now.
Oh, that is my
It says
phone.
645 in case anybody listening wants to know. I went into my season of, okay, like, of course, I get back to my wife and of course, I get back to people. And I'll usually do it when I'm on a plane. But I said, I'm going into my season of no, I really want to tune in. And my wife's birthday was in November. So we went to Hawaii for 2 weeks. And I had the coolest experiences there and just tuning into myself and saying, okay, what is my message for the world? What is my message? What am I called here to do? And I always had a feeling and I always knew was to help people. But the clarity that came was so fascinating. And I'll give a quick story for context. So I don't know, loss has a way of teaching you, loss in life and all the things. And so as we're recording, this is around the days that my mother had passed. And my birthday was 3 days ago as well. So we
Wow.
look at, for me, life and death are so prominent in this season of mine where I look at, I'm like, okay, why was I born? And then what do I want to say I did when it was my time? And I remember one time I was sitting with my mother in the hospital. Had cancer. She went down to 70 pounds. And I'm like, man, the woman that carried me now, her body is down to 70 pounds. And I was sitting there with her in the hospital one day for 12 hours. And I looked over and the question just came to my mind and it said, when it's my time, what do I want to say I did? What do I really want to say? And we have these seasons where we go through these really important questions. And I was the director of investments of a $2 billion company at the time. And I left and just pursued what I felt called to do. And so that was like one big pivot. And then ironically, right now, I'm in the middle of a new season of asking the real questions. Okay, I'm coming out of this and what are we doing? And so to me, at my core, freedom is such a value, inner freedom. And I look around and I realize that this sounds crazy to say, but if I understand the emotions that people operate in regularly in different areas of their life, I could probably predict their future with a high probability, right?
Probably.
Like, so if I
Yep.
look at how you run your relationships, right? Are you closed off? Do you know, when you go into, do you live in a fear-based state or a love-based state? Are you living in fear or freedom? Are you living in your power and your core essence and everything that you're born to be? Or are you living in this program and these fears that we embody growing up, right? If you go and you're closed off, you probably want love, but your fear is manifesting and therefore you feel alone. The same walls that keep pain out are the same walls that keep love out. Or if you manifest fear as fear of failure or fear of what people think about you or perfectionism or self-sabotage or inauthenticity or playing small, whatever you want to call it, we're going to take different risks than people than when we're living in the most powerful, beautiful state of ourselves, having our trauma healed, having stepped into the true essence of freedom, and true essence of why we're born to be here. And I've been obsessed with everything from trauma to peak performance to like the subconscious mind and all these things. And the common theme has always been liberating people and liberating myself, because I was caged, I was insecure, my nickname was passive. And I look back at my life, I'm like, dude, I went from being passive, and I say this out of gratitude, to being on stage in front of 45,000 people every year at these music festivals and doing these partnerships with will.i.am and Yoko Ono and all these people. The same guy that like was scared to say anything is sitting there having these interviews or sitting there being on stage. I'm like, dude, if I could do it, anybody could do it. Like, I really believe that, because I know myself. I know how caged I felt. So going in and coming out of this was like a new level of boldness, a new level of awareness, a new level of authenticity, a new level of let's freaking go. It's time. I really believe it's time. Like, I feel for me, it's God, but whatever anybody believes, universe, whatever you believe, that there's a calling happening and people are feeling like they're called to step into who they are, their power, their mission, their purpose, their authenticity. They're feeling they want to break free. There's another level that people are feeling called to. I'm like, let's freaking go. We have to all understand, what does it mean to step into my power, to live a love-based life instead of a fear-based life, and absolutely live free. And so going into this cave, I have so many of these frameworks and things I've studied forever, and it just all clicked. And I was like, dude, it's freaking time. And it's time to go in and help people be the most free, liberated, powerful version of themselves, understanding what fears are really controlling their lives unconsciously, and how to literally recognize them and transcend them, not resist them, but actually lean into them and freaking break free. Because I'm so grateful for my life. I'm so grateful for the relationship I had, but I know had I run certain patterns, I wouldn't be with my wife.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have the opportunities I have. So I'm sharing my heart and thinking out loud, but it's, man, like life and death. Why am I here and what do I really want to say?
Exactly. Do you just feel like it's rip the Band-Aid off and be just even more bold, more authentic version of you that you were doing, but maybe there were elements where you weren't fully going all out? Do you feel like it's go time?
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy part, right? Everybody might look at me and say, no, but Henry, but you're on stage at these things and you are
doing a
bold
lot.
and you're saying
Yeah.
these things. And I'm like, yeah, but I know what's inside of me.
Yeah.
We all know what's inside of us, and we can live good enough lives, or we could say, you know what? I want to freaking magnify the measure of my creation. I want to sit here and say, when it's my time, I let God, I'm like, I give it all back.
Yeah.
Dude, check this out. Lives are impacted. I was free. I was the best freaking husband, best father, best spiritual person I could be, best leader, best lover, best everything that I could be. And I'm like, that's what I want to say. What's going to matter the most? And so we can only compare to what we know ourselves. And I think that's the best part about it. Is like, nobody really knows. People know, but not as much as we do, this sense of, oh man, there's another level of this.
Absolutely. And I want to be a mirror back to you, because I can feel that we have something in common in that regard. But let me ask you, because I believe, and I imagine you do too, the more you're going to output and the more you're going to just be like, I'm going to let it rip.
Yeah.
There also is a level of sanctity, of reverence, of groundedness that's required.
100%.
Maybe we call it self-care.
Yeah.
What is that going to look like for you? Where are you going to up level in those areas as well? And what's that going to look like?
Totally. You're so right. Because for the tree to grow taller, you have to be more grounded.
The roots got to go deeper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And if I want to bear more fruit, then let me get some more root. That's just facts. And so you nailed it on the head. It's so true. For me, it's actually been really fun, because it really, like, understanding what works for me and who I'm stepping into. It's really a practice of embodiment and release. So every morning for me, like, I wake up, I do my spiritual stuff, I read, I pray, I meditate. And then I like really understand, okay, like I know, and I believe this is in all of us. There's a queen in you, a king in me, like all these things of what does that look like when I embody this unleashed, powerful, loving, grounded, present, leader in my life.
So you do a visualization of feeling into what would that feel like? What does that
100%.
look like? Yeah.
Yeah. And you visualize, then you integrate the emotion into it, and then you zoom into the thing that you're experiencing that day. So today I know I'm speaking with you. Today I knew I had a session with a client. Today I knew, and all these moving parts are going on. So I asked myself today, okay, is what I'm doing important? Because just because it calls loud doesn't mean it's important, right? I have to check in and say, is this the right thing for me to do? Yes. Okay, how do I want to show up for it? What would the Henry that shows up with love and presence show up for? The people that I love, like in my guided prayer and meditation, I'm like looking at my wife, how can I love her? How can I make her feel like she's a freaking queen? And what does she need today with what she's experiencing in life? Or girls, or whatever that is. And it's actually experiencing it before you experience it and deciding in advance. Because if you decide in advance, you don't have to wait for the moment to come. And then at night, just really reflecting and saying, okay, what happened, and really grounding into it. So it's such intentionality, because the reality is, in my opinion, I think a lot of people live as robots and puppets to the world of this is important, no, this is important, we got to get up and we just go and do, versus, dude, I want to freaking live. I want to live each day. I want to freaking wake up when I wake up. And so there's very much intentionality, and it's such an interesting process. And I'm being very intentional about who I surround myself in my inner circle with. In my second TED Talk, I talk about proximity, and I talk about boundaries being more of a proximity, not a yes or no, but more of a how much. And so in my inner circle, those are the people that get the most energy, the most time, the most resources, whatever. They get like the most of Henry. So it's like obviously God, my wife, my girls, and then people that lay in, and everybody has their own proximity. And I could love people exactly where they're at, probably in a better way, because if I have someone in my inner circle that's dysregulating me, then you're throwing off the love I could have for everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
But if there's a level of dysregulation, not like people aren't, there's not going to be rupture, but it's the understanding of, I use this metaphor of a porcupine. It's actually really fascinating. But for me, it's like the people I surround myself with. Like last night, my wife and I went to a dinner with a friend of mine, and our conversations are freaking rich and deep, and we're loving each other and moving each other and pushing each other and having these conversations.
Inspired and elevated. Yeah.
And I left and he left, and we're like, dude, I feel like I'm even ready to go even more. And I just think life is about creation. It's more than survival. It's more than checking the boxes off. It's that freedom to create, the freedom to be, the freedom to choose. And so it's exciting.
1000%. I love that. You just said something, and I'm really wanting to dissect, because you're saying you're laying down gold. You really are. And I think you're a master at laying down gold. These phrases, these emotions that these phrases evoke in us. But you said, I have my spiritual practice, and you brushed and then moved on to the next thing. Can you give us 3 things of what's Henry's spiritual practice to really ground him? Give me 3. Yeah,
great questions. For me, it's funny because instead of saying pray, I say connect with God. Because sometimes we can go through the repetition of a prayer, or I'm just going to read, or I'm just going to read not to like pause and listen. To me, there's a level of intentionality. I have this phrase, the harder you hit the ball against the wall, the harder it comes back. So in my spiritual practice, when I wake up, it's like I can literally feel it. So it's funny, I'm trying this new thing. And in one of your posts, you talked about the 3-6-9 thing. Yeah. I bought this book where you write down 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, 9 times at night.
Yeah. There's a book for it. That's great.
There's a book for it. It's a journal. And I was like, I want to try that out. So I do this festival in Serbia a lot, and they talk about Nikola Tesla and all the different things like that. And so you know what, I'm open. So that's one of the things I'm just implementing. But instead of just writing it down, to me, the greater the emotion, the greater the wiring in your body. Someone could say an affirmation, but the greater the emotion, the greater the wiring. That's why you look at trauma. And I'm going to divert for 12 seconds, but it'll make a lot of sense. Trauma, as Dr. Frank Anderson says, is an overwhelming life experience, right? So we have this heightened emotion. And what does the body do when you have emotion? I should probably pay attention. So what belief systems what did I decide about life? What did my body decide about my safety? What did I decide about women or men or opportunities or whatever that is at that moment when there's a heightened emotion? So the same mechanism that my body develops these belief systems because of life's overwhelming experiences to me, I want to heighten the emotion within myself. So it's not just a visualization, it's a freaking emotionalized visualization. It's embodying it. So part of that, it starts in my room. I usually wake up before my wife, and I'll get up, I'll pray, I'll read. For me, it's either scriptures and a book. And so I'll get into it, and I'll just pause and listen, and is there something for me? But then what's really cool is I will go down, and when I go to the gym, first thing I do is cardio, and I'll put some headphones on, And there's a bunch of really awesome music that I've anchored in, whether one is like more masculine energy. If I have a day, I know I just got to freaking get it done. Another one is like the spiritual playlist. I have two very different ones. You guys, I'm very like, I love all things. I have one that's very Christian and one that's very much like Aware and all these beautiful like spiritual chants. And then I have these megahertz and things like that. So depending on what my intention is for that day, if I'm really tuning in and knowing, for example, a lot of my energy is going to be pouring in and loving people that are in your audience, and how can I really show up for them? My practice is, okay, let me really tune in before I come in here. What am I supposed to share? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to show up? And what's my assignment? Like Michael Beckwith, one time I was at the premiere of that movie Heal, and they asked him a question on the panel, and they said, what's one of the things you do? And he said, in the morning I wake up and I look to God and I say, hey, what's my assignment today? Is there anything I might have missed? And if there's any face that pops up in my mind, anybody that pops in, I'm going to call them. Kind of like what you said. You're like, dude, I knew Henry was in a freaking cocoon and he just came out and he has something to say. You were like in tune enough. And to me, just like any radio, I want to make sure my frequency is on point. And this is another really interesting thing. Loving self-awareness is masterfully important. It's a key, right? Dr. Gabriel Mate calls it compassionate curiosity. So when I wake up, did I wake up anxious? Did I wake up in fear? Anxiety is another form of fear, right? It's a fear-based emotion. It's a stress response of the body. And if I can be lovingly self-aware and say, oh my gosh, like before I go in, my frequency is in a fear-based frequency. What does my body need? What is the message my body's trying to tell me? Rather than resist it or be mad that it's there, there's something that happens when we can, as IFS would call it, unblend from our emotions. And as Master Kip would say, we're with our emotions and not in them. I could wake up and be so self-aware that I'm being led by my, whether you call it a spirit self, higher self, powerful self, loving self, capital S self, where I am not my emotions, but I feel my emotions. And so in the morning when I wake up, it's like, it's a second to check in with myself and say, what am I experiencing in life? Is my body trying to tell me something? Is my spirit trying to tell me something? Am I going to miss something if I just hit the ground running right away? And there's so much gold in that, right? There's so much gold in that because there's healing in that. There's insights, there's intuition in that. But the interesting thing is when it comes to frequency, what radio frequency am I on? Am I on the frequency of love, which is freedom to me and presence and power? Or am I on the frequency of fear? And if I am, that's okay. Fear is a messenger, not a dictator to me. Emotions are messengers, not dictators.
Exactly.
And so that it's obviously structured, but it's also fluid because I check in and say, okay, what is it that I really need this morning? After I check in divinely and after I check in with myself, I'll go in, and physical movement for me is a big thing. And so just working out, moving my body, even if I just put some headphones in and do something. But a long way to say, I think it's important to have a spiritual practice in that aspect, and important to be lovingly self-aware. The reason I say loving is I truly believe that most people tell themselves enough truth to be uncomfortable, but not enough truth to be free.
Oof. Enough truth to be uncomfortable, but not enough truth to be free.
Yeah. And it's because if you think about it, if I look into myself and I'm feeling a certain emotion, whether I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling whatever, sad, mad, whatever that is, I can tell myself that, and I could be mad at myself and beat myself up for feeling a certain way. Oh, you have a lot to do. You can't feel this way. What are you doing? I don't accept myself. I don't love myself. I don't do any of that. But you can't beat yourself up into healing, right? That's just so counterintuitive, right? It doesn't work. And you can't hate yourself into loving yourself. And to me, love is the greatest healer. The greatest frequency is love. And if you think about it from a healing perspective, and I love the whole trauma world and how to heal that stuff. If you think about it, if you want to just call it your inner child calling out to you, what did we really want as children? Like acceptance, play, safety, feeling seen, feeling understood. So if all of a sudden, let's just pretend, we'll call it an inner child, a part, if you want to use IFS terms, shows up. And instead of looking at it with loving compassion and acceptance and awareness, I'm mad at it, I don't accept it, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. What's crazy is most people do to themselves what caused that part and feeling to show up in the first place. It's the same feeling that the trauma probably occurred in. It's rejection, it's a lack of acceptance, it's a lack of love, it's a lack of capacity. And we just get sucked into dysregulation. So my thing is, this is really cool. And I'm just going on this rant. You asked your question, I just ran with it. I was sitting in my car last year, and before I drive, do my best to say a little prayer and just for safety and awareness. And all of a sudden, I heard these words. This is freaking rad. I heard, love yourself exactly where you are and love yourself enough not to stay there. It's
Love
both.
that.
And it's both. Like I have to love myself where I'm at. And so it's just a real check-in, and it's building such a strong relationship with myself on a daily basis where I get to know Henry really well. And I had a really crazy thing happen last summer when I was interviewing will.i.am, and we did this event together where I felt this anxious imposter syndrome energy show up, and I was like, whoa, I haven't had that in so long. But I freaking love Will. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a freaking legend and pioneer in so many ways. So I think my body, like my inner child came up and was like, dude, what are you doing? Like you threw this event, I.am's here, European media's here, this big festival, blah, blah, blah. And I'm interviewing him, but it was so cool because I was so aware. I didn't get sucked into the emotion, but I got to go in and just pause for a second, unblend from it, walk myself back home so fast. And all of a sudden it was crazy because when I first met him, he was sitting straight forward. And then after I totally regulated and I got so present and so much in love and understanding of, okay, what does he need? How can I make this night really special for him and his brand and what he's doing? He ended up crossing his legs towards me. By the end of the day, his leg was over the couch and he was completely facing me away from the audience. And it was like more towards me. I have the picture. It's really wild. But it was so cool because subconsciously, when we're in a regulated, emotionally grounded, loving state, people will feel that.
And they
right?
just open like a flower.
You got it. You got it.
And you got to be a witness of that opening in just those moments of your internal thoughts, your internal feelings. This is a cool story.
Yeah, it's wild. And then, but if you're in a fear, there's something they call neuroception, which is your unconscious mind is always looking for cues of safety or danger.
Yeah.
So if say you and I are sitting there and someone walks in and they're in a state of fear, our unconscious minds would be like, they're in a state of fear. They're in survival mode. So I wonder if there's something we need to survive in.
Yeah. What are we missing here?
Yeah. So then what are we going to do if we're not aware? We might contract, like you said. We won't open. We'll close and we'll be like, wait, something isn't right. But if you walk in love and freedom and presence and safety and you're creating this environment, next thing you know, everything opens up and the right things open up and the wrong things don't, which is great. And
yes. And you have to accept both.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you want the wrong things to open up.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. Like, please open. They're like, okay. And you're like, why did I?
If you're in this frequency, it's not going to.
Yeah. And so that's what's beautiful about it, man. And
okay, so really quick, I want to break this down.
Yeah.
You're sitting there in this moment, will.i.am right here, which I think all of us can be like, I would feel the jitters. I would feel this imposter. I would feel this inner child coming up. And you said, I went in as an observer. What did you do when you said you walked yourself? I think you said home, but
I walked myself back
did
home.
you go into a visualization of this inner child? Did you go and be like, oh, you're safe? What did you do? Really quick, because I'm sure it was fast. Because you had to like
super fast. And that's what's cool about this work is so one of the lines I love in the IFS therapy outline, it says, they call them parts, like your little parts. They all have sub-personalities and thoughts and behaviors and belief systems, right? Have you ever seen a grown man throw a tantrum like they're 9 years old or 8? It's because that part, like that, is taking over. It's actually because my mentor said there's probably an unhealed trauma or an unhealed experience from that age of where they are. My dad used to throw 9-year-old tantrums. His dad died when he was 9 years old. Absolutely. He had to work when he was 9 years old. He matured really early. So I understand that now, looking back, now that I know this space. And they say that if all your parts can trust you and you've unblended enough with yourself, your emotions and your parts will provide information but not try to take over. As we do these morning practices and I do these understanding of myself and I can learn to trust and have love and respect within myself no matter what condition I'm at, right? No matter where I'm at, my body's learned to trust me.
Yeah.
So literally what I felt, this is my personal way, because this is how I talk to my little Henrys. Yeah. Like I felt that come up and I was like, ooh, this is probably not a good time for this, but I know what I resist will persist. So I got to go and I say, hey, buddy, this is actually our calling. We're safe. We're good. Like this is actually what we've been looking to do for a really long time, and it's all manifesting itself, and we're actually safe, and we're gonna get what you really been, because there's always a need beyond the safety.
Yes.
There's always a need beyond the safety, and we could dissect that even more. And so I say, hey, dude, like I know what you're looking for. I know that, that we're here for this purpose, and this is it. I said, I got this. You're good. Like I got this.
Wow.
And it was just quick little conversation. It was almost like a little Henry walked in the room, was like, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. I was like, dude, I got this. And they trust me so much because I spent so much loving time with myself and done so much of this work that it was such a beautiful, elevated experience. And guess what I did? I gave myself a disconfirming experience, which in the trauma space, it's like you have a new experience that your body starts to see as a new normal. Because I'm like, this is normal now. This is us. Like, this is it. Yep. We all of us have to take our seat at the table, right? It's not like we're not out there just serving. We're still going to serve the people around us, but you would also have to take your seat at the table because your gifts and your talents are needed. And I was able to look at him as a peer, as a friend, as someone that's out there to do good. And it was so interesting because in our interview, he was so open and vulnerable. He's like, dude, because one of my friends runs his company, and he was like, dude, I remember when we were trying to put out a record and she put us on the radio for the first time. And I was just like, oh man, like we were so excited to get out into the world. And Will's launching a new app. It's called FYI.ai. It's super cool. And he's, dude, I feel like that kid again. Oh my gosh, I'm launching it and she's helping me launch it again. And it's all brand new. And I see this beautiful human being that's out there creating what they believe they're supposed to create, or he's supposed to create. And he's just like me, creating what I believe I'm supposed to create.
Absolutely.
And in our own zone of genius, in our own space. And had I not taken my seat at the table, I wouldn't have been able to put that event on to create an experience that, and I only say this because he turned around at the end and he said, dude, honestly, we're on tour all summer. This is going to be one of my favorite nights of the whole summer.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, how cool is that? Had I shrunk, had I lived in fear, had I not done the work within myself, I would have missed out on the most incredible opportunity to pick the brain of someone that I love and respect, to have all these other people experience them. He ended up hiring one person in the audience for their tour. It was like all these cool things happen. I was like, isn't it crazy if we step out of our fears and we step into love and our calling in life, there is a ripple effect, not only for us, but for those we love and for our relationships and for everything. And so in that moment for me, when little Henry, or like when I felt that fear show up, I have a new relationship with fear. Fear actually is the way. If I'm doing it right, I will experience fear. Yeah. That's part of if you're doing anything new, you'll experience it. So what if resistance is the way?
Yep. 1000%. And I want to ask, because I know that you're coming out of this birthing canal and you might be out, and I can imagine, let's just go to a little child that's just being born. Who knows what they're feeling actually? Elevated heart rate. Where's my mom? I'm not in the womb anymore. I'm a little afraid. There's buzzing sounds. Because you're using fear as your teacher, as a conversation of what you're in the right lane. Are you feeling any fear right now with this new endeavor that's etched in your heart that I think you're stepping into?
It feels more like curiosity.
More curiosity.
And it feels like excitement, because I really do feel I leaned in so much in the last 6 months within myself. I leaned in so deeply, and I love this work. I literally tell my wife, I'm like, hey, babe, I have to like reintroduce myself again, because I have this new level of boldness and freedom that I'm carrying, but of course I'm going to lead with love in it. But I just want you to know this, I have to pre-frame it so she knows. But for me, last 6 months have been like truly such a beautiful awakening that I feel like I'm coming out and I feel peace. I feel joy. I feel excited. I feel a little bit like curious. I'm like, okay, I wonder how I'm going to frame this. I wonder what I'm supposed to, okay. And this is probably the crazy part, is I have this vision. It's massive. It is massive. It is like so big that when I told a few people, they're like, that's crazy. And I was like, I know. And that with me, there's this sense of, I can't do this on my own. There's no way. And so that part of it, it's like, I would probably say, as I'm processing as you say this, I'm thinking, okay, probably my biggest fear is I just want to make sure I don't miss the mark, because I know the calling is big. I know that it's going to bless a lot of people. And I know that it's not me that's given it to me. I've been entrusted to be a part of this movement that is about to happen in the world that is going to be nuts. And I know it's going to happen because it's been miraculous so far. Yeah. And when I believe when we walk in alignment, you will have resistance, you will have fear, but you'll also have miracles. And you'll also have beautiful things. There's someone that sits on one of my boards who's one of the top mental health experts in the world. And I was walking the night before and I said, dude, I really want Dr. Anderson to be on my board or be a part of this. I went to sleep that night. I woke up, and who followed me on social media that night? That guy.
I know. I believe in this stuff.
So it's just, there's something so beautiful when you walk in alignment and you trust and you're willing to do the work. And it's not always rainbows and roses. but we have to do it with love and compassion.
There's a lot of talk around manifesting, creating these phrases. Do you believe you are the ultimate? Let me rephrase that. Do you believe you are co-creating with God?
100%.
Do you? Okay.
There's an interesting story, and I don't know what people's belief systems are. So if you don't believe this, just take the principle of it.
Exactly.
So back in the day, I was dating this girl. This was obviously before my wife. She was a semi-pro salsa dancer, and I love to dance. I love like hip hop. I love all those things. I was in a boy band, so all that stuff, right? But salsa dancing and me, I was like, my hips don't really go like that. They don't really move.
It's not your comfort zone.
It wasn't my comfort zone for sure. And so this girl, she was a semi-pro salsa dancer. She's like, Henry, let's go dance. It was like salsa music. I was like, dude, listen, like my hips do lie. She says my hips don't lie. I said, I think my hips do lie. She started laughing. She said, listen, just go and just follow. Just trust me. Just do these simple moves. It'll be great. So I go and I do the simple things she's saying, and she's freaking making it look like I'm leading, but she's spinning, she's twirling. She goes, open your legs. She slid under my legs. And everyone's like looking at us at this point. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then she said, hey, lock out your arm. I'm going to flip over it. Just lock it out and hold it. I said, what? She goes, just like this. So I hold it. She flips over my arm and just keeps going. And I'm like, what is going on? And then after 5-10 minutes, I start to feel myself a little bit. I'm like, okay, I think I got this. So we're done dancing and I get off the dance floor and this older lady comes up. She goes, oh my gosh, you're so good. Let's go dance. I'm like, let's go dance. I go on the dance floor and it was so embarrassing. Like literally, it was so embarrassing. The lady literally is clapping and she's, oh my gosh, what happened? And I'm sitting there red. People are looking at me, laugh. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. This is crazy. And I started laughing. I said, listen, that wasn't me. That was her. And she starts laughing. And I said, I think we're good. We're good. And I walk off. And as soon as I stepped off the dance floor, I heard like it was God saying, if you dance with me, I will make it great. I will make you look great. I will make it beautiful. But the second you try to do it on your own and think it's you by yourself, without any divine inspiration or connection, you're going to step on toes. And I realized that day, co-creation is so beautiful. It really is. And I know people are like, what does that mean? What does that look like? Like, it's just tuning in and honoring what you believe is right. To me, it's like, I left a $2 billion company. I was offered equity in another company that was billions of dollars worth because I felt like I was supposed to go do this thing. And I look back at my life, I'm like, thank you, God, so much. That was so hard to do. Because at that point, you're like, dude, that's security for my kids and their kids. But it's like co-creation and attuning to that part of me that's connected to the divine beyond what I see, beyond what I hear, to actually create. Because if we're truly creating, it's bigger than what we see.
Yeah.
We have to step into something unknown. It has to require faith. Because otherwise, it doesn't require faith because I already see it. I know when I sit on this chair, it's going to be here. But I didn't know this conversation we're creating. I stepped into the unknown in this conversation and just trusted. And I know I could feel that in your energy and spirit too. I'm going to trust that this is happening at the right time in the right way. Yep. And now, hopefully, there's somebody here that's, you know what, I'm going to go co-create something too. And they go do something and bless their kids, and their kids watch them. And there's a ripple effect around the world because two people decided to step into the unknown and create something. You created a podcast from nothing.
Yeah.
Because you thought it.
Yeah.
It wasn't there before you created it. And to me, that's the beauty of life. We can walk in survival and we could walk in fear. We could walk in creation and freedom and love. And I absolutely, long answer to a short question, I absolutely believe in co-creation because whenever I try to do it by myself, I always hit a wall.
I really love this story. It's really easy to feel into the energy of it because what you're saying is God is the expert. There's a higher power that's an expert. You have this dream, like you want to be this dancer and look really good being the salsa dancer, and God is going to make you look really good. And he's going to make sure that dream comes forward, but you got to make sure you're co-creating. You're not the only creator. You're co-creating this with God. Right. And it reminds me, I just was with a divine human this morning. I feel called to share this story because this is a big lesson right now because we're stepping in, everyone listening is stepping into this idea of, I need to be me and I got to do what's in here and I got to go. Yeah. And this is the time, like no more holding back because I think it's actually going to make us sick. It's going to do a lot of different things because we're in a new era.
100%.
And my good friend, because we sit with the Lakota tribe, we know about these really sacred ceremonies. Not very many, especially blonde hair, blue eyed girls get invited to these, but I've been really connecting with the Lakota tribe. And when you're in these ceremonies, you are visited with spirit in real time. And he was sharing with me, and I know this human, and I've had my own experiences, but I'm going to share his because it was so potent, and I know he's speaking truth, and I know this is truth. And he plays the drum, and he plays the drum in sweat, and I've heard him play the drum. He's been in my events playing drums.
Cool.
And he's playing the drum, and they're singing, and everything's black in the space, and there's no room for anyone else to be coming around. Like, it's sardines in there, so no one can come in and play the drum. This is spirit. And he says he gets this feeling, and he feels this presence moving his hand off the mallet, but he's holding with one hand, and he's like, that's weird, but he keeps drumming because he's helping with the beat and the music, and this is part of ceremony. And he feels this like feeling of move the hand, and his hand goes to his heart.
Wow.
And he's still holding the drum, and it's going harder and louder, and he has to grip even harder with his muscles because spirit is beating the drum. I'm getting chills talking about it. And it's this reminder of yes, and this and word of yes, ascension, but yes, descension, going 100%. And doing your roots. And then, you're going to hold the drum. You got to hold the drum. But someone else might beat it. And that might be God, source, energy, whatever we want to let people call it, what they want to call it. But we are co-creating, and it's go time, and you're not doing it alone. And I just 100%. Feel like that's a big message for me today. And so thank you so much for sharing that story.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's powerful.
Thank you so much thanks for sharing that. It's so amazing. And sometimes people wonder if I used to have this belief, and I don't know how you feel, but sometimes people are like, oh, if God's here, then it's going to be super easy, or it's going to be super whatever. No, we get to decide what beliefs we want to carry, right? What if I decided that this was exactly what I needed right now for my evolution to step into the calling that I have in my life? Yeah. And interestingly enough, and I share this because I know I've heard people say, I've tried to let go of the wheel and everything fell apart. When my mother passed away, it was very difficult for me. I did all the things, right? All the things to try to help and love her and do this and that. I remember when she passed away, I took what I call a sacred pause because I knew whatever decision I made at that moment was going to affect the rest of my life. And I held her hand, and I remember I paused and I looked up and I said, Henry, I literally told myself, I said, what are you going to decide about life? What's your meaning of life from this place? Because I could have been like that, the one person in my life that was safe at the time, my best friend, my rock, my everything. Like, she's gone, she suffered, she did this, she did that. And there were lots of moments even before that when we found out she had cancer. I told my sister, I was like, listen, we can't change what we can't change, but we have to change what we can. I said, God grant me the peace to accept the things that I cannot change. Not just accept it, but I'm going to give them to you. The courage to change the things that I can, that's me. And the wisdom to know the difference. And I sat there at that moment, and I remember I said, this is a moment. So I looked at my mom, she'd passed, and I said, Mom, I said, I will honor your sacrifices in your life with how I live mine. And that became an anchor for me. And I think in life, right, in hard times and in good times, if I'm going to go through it, I might as well grow through it. And I might as well say, who am I becoming from this? Who can I step into from this? The being you're hearing today is not someone that just studied. It's the wrestle that I had. It's the wrestle that we had in our life. The difficult times that made us who we are because we decided to step into a certain thing. It's not like I allowed myself to be mad and sad and happy she wasn't suffering and all the things. I allowed myself to feel all the things. It wasn't emotional override. It wasn't like this, oh yeah, whatever, but it was like this sense of, I'm going to be with myself in this. And if I have to stay in my agency, I have to stay in presence and freedom and love, because anything that I decide other than that is going to limit me, is going to limit my potential, and limit my growth. I can't control what I can't control, but I must control what I can.
Yeah.
And so for anybody wondering, oh man, I'm doing this, but life seems to get harder. I had this very crazy experience, and I was going through a really hard time. It was when I was taking my first spiritual walk. Like, I was going all in on spirit and life and this whole work, and life seemed to have fallen apart. And I was like, isn't there supposed to be like golden sidewalks?
Supposed to be better?
Yeah,
exactly.
I was like, I broke up with a girlfriend of 3.5 years. This is going to be really funny. I cried so hard I threw up when I broke up with her. That's like, I was like,
I'm sure.
That's probably not what you want to hear listening or driving, whatever you're doing. But everything, my family, everything just felt like it was falling apart. And I was like, I thought when I started to walk this walk, there was going to be this golden sidewalk, The angels were going to sing and life was going to get good.
Because you hear of the flow.
Right.
It should feel like just flow. It should feel
Right.
easy.
Right. And so I was like, I want to live in truth. I want to live in truth and
There
love.
you go.
Truth and love. That's my thing. If it's true and it's love, I want it. If it's not, I don't want it. You know what I mean? And so I was sitting there and I remember just opening my heart and praying. And I was like, dude, this is freaking hard. Family, life, friends, everything. I felt alone. I felt exhausted. I felt sad. I was like just in this space. And I remember sitting there with my head down, with almost my head in my hands. And I'm looking down and I'm like just saying this like little prayer in my heart. Dude, I said, dude, oh my God, like this is hard. If this is true, I'll do whatever. I said, but I thought it was supposed to get better. I thought it was supposed to get easier. I thought it was supposed to get good. And I had this experience where I just read this thing that said all things work together for good. And it was in the scriptures. And I was like, okay, cool. It's like an Instagram story, right? Quote. You're like, put it up there and you just go on in life. But sometimes it's funny. I was talking to Mastin Kip. I don't know if you know Mastin Kip, but I was talking to him yesterday. We were on a Zoom call. And he said he wants to be a 1 sign follower, not a 2,000 sign follower. He doesn't need 2,000 signs to follow. I was like, that's really cool.
I can hear an exhale from his guides. They're like, thank you.
Yeah, it was so good. Yeah, seriously. Yeah,
So
totally.
good.
He's like, I'm sure there's 2,000 signs. And they're like, are you not getting it? And that was one of the signs I heard, but I missed. It was crazy. And I get on this train and I'm serious. This is the craziest thing. I'm sitting there on this train and I'm like in my head, when you're like, I call it slot machine mind. My mind is just spinning.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what is going on? Blah, blah, blah. And I feel this energy coming towards me. And I'm like, what is happening? And then I look up and there's a guy on crutches walking right at me, looking me straight in the eyes. And I'm like, what is he? And he's taking forever to get there because he's on crutches. I'm like, what does he want? Can you get here faster? And he's walking right at me and finally comes right up to me and he goes, hey. And I'm like, hey. He said, when God said all things, he means all things. He didn't say some things. He didn't say almost everything. He didn't say a little bit of things. He told you all things will work together for your good. You stay on the path.
He just out of the blue came up and did that.
Out of the freaking blue.
Messenger.
And I was like,
how many signs do I need?
I think that's the one. I think that's the sign I needed. Because I couldn't deny that one. I could deny the quote or deny
yeah, that's
that
a pretty bold sign. Like some stranger in crutches just beaming you
on
down.
a train. And for me, I realized at that moment I could believe in a higher power, but I didn't believe him. There's a difference. You could believe in, but not believe.
Yes.
And if I really believe, if I say, you know what, this is truth, this is love, I'm going to walk in it. And on the other side of this, even if it's a refiner's fire, I'm going to freaking come out of this shinier, better, more loving. And lastly, I'll say this is they talk about the refiner's fire and refining like silver. They asked the silversmith once, my friend said, I don't know if she did or her friend did. She said, I asked him, how do you know, what's your process of refining silver? And he's a swordsmith. He said, I put it in fire, not too much that it gets burned, but not too little that nothing happens. And she said, how do you know you're done? He said, when I could see my reflection in it.
Ooh, wait.
And I'm like, oh, and so to me, God is love. God is power. God is presence. God is peace. God is here. There's a level of service with God. There's a level of healing. There's a level, it's like, that's the embodiment that I want to be. And so whatever you want to call it, universe, love, whatever, I don't care what people call it. To me, it's God. I'm like, I want to embody love. And I don't say love over fear. I put love into fear so I could heal the fear. I put love into things that are hard because that's what the healer is. But I want to embody love. When it's my time, I want to look people in the eyes and say, dude, Henry freaking loved me hard. That's what I wanted to say when I was sitting by my mom. I was like, dude, I just want to say I gave it all back. And dude, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Thanks. You have great questions. Thanks for pitching and catching with me. I know I get so passionate. I'm like, there's so much goodness. And I really feel if you're listening to this point, you're not listening to this by coincidence. There's a reason you hear this message because there is something for you. You, like the doubt that you had, the questioning you had for yourself, no one else is you. No one's going to understand your purpose the way that you do or even the desire that you do. And there's something for you. And so I just hope you open your heart and you live and freaking live your life fully because it is so easy. We're going to look back and time is going to fly like this. And what are we going to say? It's like, I lived, man. I loved. And I freaking owned every part of myself and I expanded my giftings. And that's going to be beautiful. And because of that, not only was my life better, not only was I quote unquote more abundant, but I created abundance for people around me. My wife felt My wife's life was better, my kids, my friends, people I meet, because I decided to move from a fear-based, in my head, stuck life to being free, to
Mm-hmm.
stepping into my true creation, the unique nature in which I was made. I can only touch people that I can touch, but there are people listening that can touch people that I cannot touch. Jeanette, you can touch people I cannot touch. And the gift of it is there's enough room for everybody.
Yep.
And all of us, it's like I love seeing people win, because when good people win, everybody wins.
Exactly. I'm going to ask one last question. I'm
Yeah.
feeling this deeply, and I've not done this to anyone else, but I know I want you to close your eyes for a moment
Yeah.
because we've brought your mom into this space, and I want to bring her back into this space through you. I sense she has a message
Mm-hmm.
she would like to share,
Mm-hmm.
and I want you to drop in as Henry with your mom. Imagine this is the last thing that she gets to say. You can't even see how far the people go. They're all in front, and it's the last thing she gets to say. I want you to feel into a message that she has, and it doesn't need to be long, but just something that she feels, and it could be just what you feel because she is you, that comes through
Mm-hmm.
your mouth right now.
Yeah. I hear her laugh. She had the best laugh, and she was so cute and playful. She used to joke when it was like time to go. She'd say, "Come on, man," in a funny way. And I think her "come on, man" in a playful way is a way to say it's time to go and enjoy the journey. A "come on, man" was like a funny, like the way she did it, she would laugh because my dad one time said it when he was irritated, but we all started laughing. And so it became a thing. And I feel like it's the idea of "come on, man," like it's time to step into it. And "come on, man" is also very playful. So make sure you enjoy this part of the journey and you enjoy the process as you do it, because it's meant to be enjoyed. So it's a gist of both. And I hear her laughing and I hear her playfulness. So that's the energy and what I feel into. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, I can feel her. What's her name so we can name her?
Sue.
Sue, thank you
Yeah.
for your beautiful message of come on, man, let's
Yeah.
go and let's have fun doing it.
Yeah.
So thank you so
Yeah.
much for this beautiful time spent. And I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
you and your
You too.
intentionality and your willingness to share from your heart. So thank you for
Thank you.
being here.
Same. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
Beautiful. I'll put all of his information. I'm sure he's going to be speaking. I can feel into this endeavor that he is on. And so to catch all that he's doing, even his podcast, I'm going to link it all in the show notes below. I love you. And thank you
Thank
guys
you.
for being here.
Thank you so much.